all the things I told you last time are background or foundation information, so you're able to understand the model a bit better, teaching you a new language, so to speak, to see things in a different way. And then we started about the model, the parts of the machine. So we talked about events, right? And then identification. So have you been able to identify mood swings or changes of thoughts to certain events? You start to see how that works? You played with it a bit? Okay, good. Any questions about events and identification so far? Don't be shy. Okay. All right. Now, this is extremely important part of the machine. It's called fragmentation. So all of these are, like I say, parts of a machine, which is your mind, your personality. You know, you go through your life and things are extremely confusing. Why do I do that? Why does they do that? That my mother loves me. How could she steal money from me and hurt me so badly and stab me in the back? And why are people so mean? And why do they change and they promise to do it, then they don't do it? All these things, right? And it's considered normal, but it's not normal. It's not normal for a healthy human being. It is normal for a broken human being. And since we are all raised by broken human beings, our parents, grandparents, and so on, then we will be broken, right? I was in, where was it? I think it was in Norway. And I was in Oslo, and I called a taxi to go to the airport, from the hotel to the airport. Indian man driving the taxi. So we're chatting, he has totally Indian accent, talking like absolutely Indian. And I said, how long have you been here? He said, I'm born here. And I'm thinking, this accent, and you're born in Norway? Because he's born and raised by his parents, who came from India, who talk like Indians. You see? Yeah. So you see, everything about you is going to be formed. There's nothing real about you, remember? Nothing real. So you're broken because they are broken. And so because everyone is broken and hobbling, remember, with one hand and one leg and one foot in your mouth, you think that's normal just because everyone is doing it. But it is not normal. It is not what we could be. So we're trying to become better than that, right? More than just human. So now, fragmentation is basically the principle of, as a concept, there's an airplane, 400 people on the plane, one pilot seat. Everybody is a good pilot. And every time there's an event that triggers an identification, a different fragment takes control of the plane, which is your mind. So, I'm in a good mood, I'm flying to Hawaii. Then I hear the song that reminds me of my first heartbreak. That's the event, the identification. Now my mood goes to sad, and the fragment that was formed at the moment of that event now takes control of the plane, and instead of continuing on the way to Hawaii or wherever I was going, I'm now turned to go to South America. And the next event happens, triggers another identification, a different fragment takes control of my mind, which is my mood, my emotion, and the plane now turns to go to Malaysia, right? So every time your mood changes, that changes the direction of your next words, your next actions. If you are happy, positive, singing the song, driving along, you're focused on the road, and then another song comes on that makes you sad and depressed, you're not so focused on the road. Or the phone rings, and it depends who's on the phone, or whatever it is. So then it changes the event, changes the identification, changes the mood, changes the fragment, which is your consciousness at that moment, which will change your thoughts, moods, reactions, everything. Okay? So this principle is, you are thousands and thousands of little fragments of you each one identical except for one particular difference. So, have you ever tried to choose, for example, should I wear the red shirt or the blue shirt? That sort of thing. And you vacillate between the two. You could not make a simple decision. And eventually you say, what the hell is wrong with me? Why can't I make a simple decision? Because of fragmentation. You see the red shirt and it makes you think, yeah, that'll make a good impression because I like that color. And then you think, the blue shirt, because that person said I look good in the blue shirt. So the event now is you trying to choose what to wear, and you look at this shirt or that shirt. That's how quickly the events go. And we identify with, oh, I had a great time when I wore that shirt. Or, oh, I got a job off a first interview when I wore that shirt. And so every event, that small, is identified to something about that event, which could be that piece of clothing, that earring, anything. And then that changes the fragment in control of your mind. And you cannot see the fragments change because they're so identical, other than that one particular difference, which is this fragment likes red shirts and that fragment likes blue shirts. Okay? So, that's the concept of fragmentation, that from the day you're born, every event happens, breaks off from baby no name, the central I, the original you that was born, into fragments of that. Now, things happen such as your parents argue, for example, about what color car to buy. They want to buy a car. Mommy is saying, I want a red car. Daddy is saying, I want a white car. And you're there listening, and you're 2 years old. You don't know what a car is. You don't understand anything. What you understand is you have mommy and daddy, and you love them both, which means you want to follow what both of them say. But mommy is saying red, and daddy is saying white. And so you've now created two fragments, or two fragments are created, one which sides to your mommy that says red is the right color for a car, and one which sides to your daddy which says white is the right color for a car. And then as you grow up and you're 20, 30, 40 years old and you want to buy a new car and you don't know which color to choose. Right? And this is why we are so messed up and waste so much energy. Because you don't know this is happening. You think you're one person. By the end of this course, you're going to see your millions of people all in one. And each one is an individual being in its own and has the power to control your mind and thoughts and emotions. Unless you fix this broken machine. And it's broken because, like a glass, you break it into a million pieces. Now, let's say a glass, you break it, it's one piece. Baby no name, when I'm born. Smashes, 1,000 pieces. That's as we grow up, all the events fragment us. Now you've learned about this part of the machine. Now what you have to do is sweep up all the pieces, melt them down, and reform them back into a single object. So that's what we learn to do, is to eliminate fragments. And as we eliminate the fragment, nothing dies, but the energy of it returns back to the whole. In the Kabbalah, do you know what the Kabbalah is? Kabbalah? Whatever you would pronounce it? No? Okay. You know what Jewish religion is, right? So for every religion, there's a mystical side of it. The Kabbalah is the mystics of Judaism. In the Kabbalah, it says, like explaining creation in us and all of that, God created the perfect vessels, like a vase. And they were perfect. God created them perfect. But they were not perfect because they were created perfect, so there was no free will. So God smashed them, threw the pieces to earth, and it is up to the vessels to reassemble themselves and become whole again. And by the process of self-will, reassembling themselves, or as I call it, fixing the broken machine, we are then truly perfect. Okay? So remember what I said. You do not have, in my opinion, a purpose that God sent you to do, as if help poor people, do this charity, do this. No, I don't agree with that. Because quite frankly, I think God could do that himself. He is kind of powerful. But our only purpose is to reassemble the vessel, to perfect ourselves. Because let's say you understand 3 words of French, and I give you instructions how to do something in a whole paragraph, and you only understood 3 or 4 words. Do you think you would get the instructions right and do a good job? Impossible. But if you learned to speak French fluently, then for sure you would do it right. So our work is first reassemble the vessel, then we know what to do. Then we can hear better. Okay? So you can see the camera is still filming? It's good. Okay. So this is what the main part of the problem is, that we are fragmented, and with every fragment we don't realize, but by watching your mood swings and the identification to the first time you saw that event, you will start to see the fragments. Now, what we do to fix this problem is that as soon as I catch the mood swing and I determine the event that I identified with, I say, aha, I see. Now let me go back to the fragment before. I will not let this new fragment turn the airplane to a different direction. Meaning, because you go on a date, everything is going great, wonderful. You're talking for an hour. This is the one, totally fantastic. Then something happens and your mood or his mood changes because of an identification to an event. Finished, end of relationship, right there, right? Okay, that's happened? Okay, so now you watch, you see the mood swing, and you say, aha, I got the fragment. This is just because the machine is broken. But now I know what's wrong. So you out and put back the original one who was having a good time. And your mood will return to where it was before it switched. And then the plane can keep going on the course. Because what a human being does with the fragmentation unchecked is, you know, you're going to Hawaii, then South America, then Malaysia, then Japan, then Turkey, then all over, right? Your whole life you keep changing directions before you reach any destination, which means you run out of fuel and you crash and die. Now, isn't that a typical human life? We spend our whole life chasing something. This career, this dream, this idea, but we never quite achieve our goals. How many people actually achieve their goals? Like a friend of mine said, he says, people talk about writing a book, you wrote 7. People talk about flying a plane, you fly a plane, you bought your own plane. People talk about travel the world, he says, you've traveled around the world. He said, you're the only one I know who actually did everything, but everybody talks about and never does. And that's why. Okay. Does this make sense so far? You can identify events like this. So the goal is eliminate fragments by catching when the fragment changes as soon as possible, which could be a minute or an hour. It doesn't matter. But you catch it as soon as possible and think, this is intellectual work, think, aha, okay, I see. That event happened. And that triggered the identification, that changed the fragment. I see you. Now I don't let you control the plane anymore. I want to be in a better mood. I want to go back. And it does work. Because as soon as you see, it's like the guy who goes to the doctor, it hurts when I do this. So a friend of mine, he had a big fall and he hurt his shoulder. And so he was, like this for about a year because he was badly injured. And I went to see him after maybe 2 years. I said, Guy, you're still like this, is still in pain? No, it doesn't hurt at all. I said, so why you walk like this? He said, it hurt for so long, now I got used to it, and so I'm sort of stuck like this. That's a true story. And you're no different because you allow the fragments to keep controlling. So as soon as you catch the change, you say, no, okay, relax, straighten up, go back to the original mood. And how to do it, right? This is all intellectual in your own mind. There is no reason for my mood to change here and now. Because this person isn't the person who hurt me before. Or this person has nothing to do with the song I heard or the perfume I smelled or the taste of the bad coffee or whatever it is. Remind yourself by seeing the identification that it is not connected in any way to what is happening right now. Now, the more you do this, when you catch a fragment, it dies. It's like that. When you catch a fragment, it dies. Normally, I would have like drawings and papers, but I don't have all these things here. So I would show you. So you have to imagine. So we have the central eye and we have all the fragments, okay? So we have many, 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 many fragments. Now, fragments are individual, but they're not entirely individual. It's like cousins, right? So your father has 7 brothers, and each brother has 7 children. So you have now groups of 7 cousins who are quite similar because they follow that father, right? It's just analogies, right? Example is just an example. So the same goes with the fragments, that when you kill in a group of, let's say, 10 fragments, for example, and you can catch and kill 2 of those fragments, the whole group dies. So even though you may have 100,000 fragments or whatever there is, an uncountable number, you don't have to kill one by one. Because when you kill enough in a group that have very similar tendencies, the whole group dies. Okay? So I'm just giving you some hope. It's not as difficult as it sounds. So this is the, we'll explain more in a second, but where our life gets drained because it drains our energy and it wastes our time. There's only one thing in the whole universe that if you lose it, you can never get it again. Because whatever you lose, this teacup, my watch, whatever, it's somewhere. But time, once it's gone, it's gone. Finish. So we must make very, very, very precious use of time. And fragmentation is the way we waste our entire life. Right? So, yeah, I'm sorry. I know the things I want to say, but I have to keep myself in order for the slides, so it's easier for you to follow. That's part of awakening. Being an awakened being and not being fragmented, what you'll find as you develop is you can see everything in one view. So you know so much, but you have to speak at the level of the people you're talking to. So to slow down, all right? So I jump a little bit, but I try to keep myself. But I'm saying this for you to know what you will become, okay? So what happens with fragmentation is I see you and only you, and then, oh, I jump to you, and then I jump to you, and then I jump to you, right? That's fragments, only one by one. They're individual, they're very limited in thinking. But when you don't have fragments, you see everybody at one time, okay? So I'm saying that for you first to think about how you are currently. Are you able to see big picture? Or do you only see this thing at a time? And that comes to communications, arguments. Do you see only the words that person said or the bigger picture? For example, one woman, it's a real shame. She had been married 25 years. Absolutely loving, happy, 25 years, wonderful. But then the husband, he was having big money problems, job problems, something, and he was stressed for months. And one day he said something to her, and it hurt her so much she cannot forgive him. So that's what she came to talk to me about. She says, I said, but do you know why he said it? Well, he's very stressed with life. And I said, okay, did he apologize? Absolutely, he apologized. He said, he's really sorry, he didn't mean it. I said, so what's the problem? She says, but he said it, and I can't let go. And she ruined a 25 years marriage because of one thing that she focused on, which means that all the other fragments were replaced, and one fragment that identified to those particular words from whatever happened in her past became so focused on those words, it completely ignored 25 years of a loving, faithful, happy husband. You see? So this is what I'm saying. Fragments, one person, or see the whole group. What do you see? How does your mind work? And this is just for you to observe. Whenever you're in any negative emotion, are you focused on one particular thing and ignoring everything else? And that's where all your energy is wasted. Or are you letting that one thing go and seeing the big picture? Right? It makes sense? Do you all identify with this sort of example, that these sort of things happen to you? Okay? And when it happened to you, did you understand or realize or do anything? What'd you do about it? Then. Right now, you're not pissed off with me, so it doesn't count. Then. Okay. Then it's ruined. Now, months, years later, you think about it. And how do you feel about it now that you're thinking about what you did that ruined you?
That was stupid.
Okay. Did you realize it was stupid at the time?
No.
Why not?
I was broken.
And you see what I mean? We're a broken machine. But now you realize it. Would it have been better had you realized it then?
Yes.
Of course. Okay? So, you just died today, all of you. You're now reborn. You can start over. We have screwed up our lives up until now. Now we understand why. Now we can start to fix it going forward. So no regrets about the past mistakes, but don't be stupid to make the same ones going forward. Now you will, because you can't change in the moment. Like you're not walking out of here totally enlightened, right? But you now know how to watch, to minimize. So when those events happen again, and again you get fragmented, and again you lose your mind, the sooner you can remind yourself of what's really going on, you can stop it, apologize, even if you're not the one who's wrong. But you know why you were wrong? Because you were fragmented and you got upset. Perhaps rightfully so, whatever the other person did. They did, it's bad, it's wrong, sure. But remember, you're not here to help anybody else, only yourself. So you will apologize because, you can't explain what you're apologizing for, because they don't know about fragmentation. But in your mind, I'm apologizing because I know I'm a broken machine, I haven't fixed me yet. But that's in your mind. But to them, you're saying, I'm sorry I lost my temper. Okay? And when you do that, the fragment that was adamant and in control, making you lose your temper, shrivels up and dies. And he cannot control you again. Okay? That's how we're getting rid of fragments. By catching them and making them apologize, which they cannot stand doing, so they'd rather shrivel up and die and go away. Okay? Yes. Yeah, it goes away permanently. But there are thousands. So what will happen is that one will go away. But some other will be so similar and will come up. But remember, they're in groups. So if there's 100 fragments that get pissed off at similar, nearly similar, once you've gotten rid of 5 or 10, they all die. Okay? So don't expect I catch it once and that's it. No, I'll catch it a couple of times, 3, 4, 5, 10 times, then it won't happen anymore. Okay? So you have to just be persistent at that and keep going. until they're all finished. All right, yes, you wanted to ask something? No. Oh, you were just, okay. All right, no problem. Okay, questions about that? All right, okay. Yes.
Does that mean you're not allowed to feel?
Oh, sure you'll feel.
You're not allowed to be angry, you're not allowed to remove
Okay.
that, because it feels like, okay, yes, you're awakened, but now you feel a bit, especially now, you feel like I'll be suppressing it. So unfortunately, it might come out to someone else.
Absolutely, you never
That
suppress.
moment you'll be suppressing it, thinking that, we are broken until it blows
Yep.
to someone else.
Okay, no, you never, ever suppress an emotion. In fact, you must express all emotions immediately. But the point is, you remember about being a cloud? When you fix the machine, you're a cloud. You don't get angry. You see, I don't express anger and negative emotions normally. There's only very few things that can get me angry. And I'm not suppressing or repressing it. I just simply don't get angry. I don't get angry. So that's the point of the work. This is not about controlling our emotions. It's about seeing the cause of the emotion. And when I see the cause of the emotion is that because the machine is broken, like for example, a car is making very loud noise because the muffler is broken. If I know the muffler is broken, I fix the muffler, the car will be quiet. Okay? So it's the same thing. We don't suppress. We feel it, but we look for the real cause, which is the identification to something that I'm now imagining into a big thing. Because that fragment likes to get angry. Because it saw when my mother got angry, my father would all of a sudden become weak and scared and apologize. So it's a great way to control. Did I tell you about my brother and his wedding? No? Okay, so my brother, they're religious, so they were both virgins. So you can imagine in your mid-20s, you're both a virgin, and you get married, and the party goes until like 4 a.m., so late party. It's your wedding night. I think you all know what happens. Okay, the next day, in the afternoon, they're talking, and she starts crying. He said it took 2 hours to get her to calm down enough to explain why is she crying. And she said, when I was talking, you yawned. You're bored with me. You don't love me. And he said, from that moment on, I was petrified to speak because even a yawn could create such an outburst.
And that's immediately after getting married?
The day after. The first day. I assume her mother trained her how to control your husband. Yes. Now imagine you're 2, 3 years old and you see your parents and they're talking, cool. You don't understand the words because you're 2 years old, and you just see them talking, and then all of a sudden mommy starts crying and freaking out, and daddy, oh, I'm sorry, can I buy you a present? What can I do? You learned how to behave. There's a fragment. And so now that fragment, anytime faced with any form of attack or conflict, will immediately freak out, go into self-pity, start crying and screaming. Okay? I mean, when the events are right. Okay? So there's a fragment. So now what happens is, assuming you have that fragment, and you want to look for it, as soon as you feel intimidated or attacked, and you want to start crying, or you do start crying, and you freak out, and you can then see, okay, it's a fragment that I learned, but I see this is no good, I'm broken. Okay, calm down. I see the cause. Now calm down. Okay, when I calm down enough, then I apologize for losing my temper. And that kills that fragment. Depending on how big and strong the fragment is, it might take a few tries, but that's it. But you express. You never, ever contain emotions with my work. Worst thing you can do. Okay? So you express, and as soon as you calm down enough, which could be a day or two, and you then apologize, that's how you get better. So if it's 48 hours, then it'll be 44 hours, then it'll be 42 hours, and so on. Each time you will catch that fragment, it will be sooner, 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 until it is so quick that you're like a cloud and it never affects you. Okay? All right, does that make sense? It's good. Any other questions about fragments? Yeah? Can you up the volume a little, please?
Anytime you start thinking about that something that happened, you notice the emotions, they start
Yeah.
getting tension, and so maybe you start thinking about more and more things that get you angry, and so you start getting more tensed up. So what do you do to calm yourself down?
Yeah.
I don't need to do this.
Okay. If you ever like hit your foot on the table and your foot hurts, do you bite your finger? No? Something. You don't do that? Okay. You do something. Why? Because if I hurt here, then that starts hurting, right? Okay. It makes sense? Do you know what I mean? Yeah? Okay. Do you know what I mean? Right. So you do the same thing. When you're getting into that mood and all of this, the more you practice, it becomes more automatic. Okay, it's just fragments identifying. And now let me change my thought to something different. Okay, I know that I am now living in the past. I am not actually here in the present. So let me think of something different. Like, for example, for me, when I would get depressed, I'd put on the happy, happy music. Really happy music. And because I live in silence, I don't like music, I don't want to hear any sounds. So I'll put on happy music. Totally changes my thoughts because I practice this, so it's easier for me to get out of the bad mood. So basically, by knowing what's going on, you just get yourself to do or think of something else. All right? So that's how. Now, so that follows to the two exercises I'll give you right now. The first exercise is fragments are, I meet you, I don't really like you. No, example, right? And I say, oh, yeah, you meet someone, right? In the office, whatever. You don't really like them. Hey, yeah, we'll go for lunch. Yeah, you just want to get rid of them. So you just say, yeah, we'll meet for coffee, we'll go for lunch, okay? And you have no intention of doing it because the fragment at the moment is just trying to get away from them and be nice. So it says, we'll meet for lunch. And it knows that, you know what, I'm not going to be in control for very long, so some other fragment will have to deal with it, so I can say anything. And then, of course, you never keep your commitment. Right? That's why people say things that they never do. Because one fragment says it knowing I'm going to be out of the plane or the pilot's seat. Somebody else will have to deal with it. Let him deal with it. So you have to keep all your commitments. This is another way to eliminate fragmentation. If I say, I will have lunch with you, it doesn't matter. I now have to make sure I have lunch with you very soon. Everything you say, you must keep that commitment, whatever it is. And that's why being on time is so important. If you say you will be here at 3 o'clock, you have to be here at 3 o'clock. Why aren't you here at 3 o'clock? And yet you said you would be. One fragment says, oh, yes, I'm always on time. I need to be there at 3 o'clock. Then another fragment is, oh, I want to have a cup of coffee. Oh, I want to check my emails. Oh, I want to do this. And before you know it, it's 4 o'clock. And you now are permitting fragmentation to proliferate, to grow. But if I say, I will be there at 3, this fragment, I will be there at 3 o'clock. And then he's out. Other fragments come and you get delayed. So that means you're allowing fragmentation to control you, right? Different fragments jumping. But if I say I'll be there at 3 o'clock, now this fragment who said that will stay in control or return to control to make sure you're there at 3 o'clock. Okay? So another way fragments continue to live is every time they're in the pilot seat, they get some food. They get stronger. But every time you put them in the back and don't let them in control, they get weaker because they don't get food. It's kind of like, I mean, I don't play sports, I don't follow sports, but I know I've seen that like in hockey, in sports teams. The team is playing and they have extra players waiting on the side to take turns to replace them, right? So if you're sitting there in the bench waiting for 1 game, 2 games, after 10 or 15 games that you're still waiting to get a turn, how will you feel? Very depressed. And then you get weak and you have no strength. It's the same with the fragments. If they don't get a turn to be in control, they get weaker. Okay? So there are several ways to weaken and conquer fragmentation. So everything you say means you will have to do it. So that puts that fragment always back in control, makes it stronger, and by virtue of there being only one pilot seat, others cannot get fed, they get weaker, and you get stronger. Okay? The other thing is you will learn not to say anything unless you mean it. So it means that all these other fragments who say, I'll do this, I'll do that, I promise this, and they don't care because they're not going to be there, you're not giving them a chance to be in control and say these things. Because if I say something, I will do it. So therefore, the one who says, I'll have lunch with you and I really don't want to do it, cannot get in control of your mind. Because you're going to force yourself to do what is said. He doesn't want to do what he said, so therefore, she has to sit in the back. She can't get a turn. Does that make sense? Is that clear enough? Okay. So there are these different ways of weakening and therefore eliminating fragments. Okay, and this is a lifelong journey. Right? Okay, so keep every commitment, every single thing, no matter how small. I will call you at 3 o'clock. I will email you later today, whatever it is. You have to keep every commitment. Okay? It also makes people see you as a much more reliable, wonderful person. So you will get a lot more respect from other people because you always keep your word. I've had people give me hundreds of thousands of dollars to hold for them or invest for them. And you know what's amazing? They never asked for a receipt. I have about 4 friends like that. They've never, I said, dude, you want to contract something? No, David, it's you. I've been given, one guy gave me like $450,000. And he never asked for an email, a receipt, nothing. Now, his respect for me, because my word is so good, makes me feel good about myself, right? It's logical. So if you want to build up your self-esteem, other people respecting you will help you feel better about yourself. But if other people know that, oh yeah, you said 4 o'clock, but I'll see you at 7, then they think of you that way, you're not going to think very much of yourself either. And all of this is covered in fragmentation because it's different fragments justifying, explaining, and so on. So you don't even see what's really going on in your own mind. But where you can see it is the result of your life. How is your relationship? How is your job? How is your money situation? How is your career? All of these things. How is your life going in general? That shows you what you really think about yourself. Okay? So, all right. Now another exercise is to talk about something for 10 minutes. Set the timer. 10 minutes, then change subjects. Deliberately. So you force yourself to jump from one subject to another and then back. So you are forcing yourself to be aware of what you're talking about and then jumping to something else, which means I am consciously changing fragments. Instead of fragments changing due to events triggering identification beyond my awareness, I am now consciously saying, your turn, now your turn. So who am I? I am the central I, baby no name. the one born without broken machine. And I will now choose, this fragment will talk about knitting, and this fragment will talk about airplanes, and this fragment will talk about yoga and whatever, and then back to knitting, and then back to airplanes, or whatever it is you like. Okay? So that's another exercise. By forcing the control of which fragment is in the seat and choosing when it leaves for somebody else. Okay? So those are the different exercises to help eliminate fragmentation. All right, is that all clear? Okay. Oops, there it goes. Okay, I'll just finish a couple of more slides about fragmentation, and then we will take a little break. Let me just see what I've got here. Right, okay, now, everybody wants more energy. I'll sleep 1 hour, 2 hours, and I'll still go. I've gone, the longest I've gone 3 days with no sleep. I'm still powerful, right? Everyone's, how do you get so much energy? What can I do to have more energy? So you cannot do anything to have more energy. Energy is fixed, how much you get. Every breath you take is oxygen, the blood, the lungs, whatever the body does, okay? You cannot get more energy. Of course you can do yoga, do things, keep yourself in better health. But real energy is always coming, and we waste it. And so you want more energy, stop wasting. So we could say energy comes in with every breath, for example, but I'm so fragmented, the vessel, my body, which takes this energy out of the air and makes it into blood and so on, the energy is leaked through negative emotions, fragmentation, confusion, identification. Every time a fragment changes, it's like, it's 40 degrees, and every time I open the door, the air conditioning goes out. Then we need more energy to make more air conditioning to cool the apartment, right? Open the door, cool air goes out. Then we have to make new, right? So it keeps wasting energy. But if the door is always closed, the apartment stays cool, right? Make sense? So your energy, which determines how much you will sleep, how aware and attentive you are during the day, how your health is, all of this is determined by eliminating leaks, which are the negative emotions, the fragments, events, and so on. Okay? So this is the first thing will come. Okay, so we have to stop the leak because the energy is coming in and it's leaking out. Energy comes in, leaking out. Asking for more energy won't help because it'll all leak out anyway. We have to plug the leaks, okay? So give me some examples of where you think you waste energy. You said overthinking, the two of you at the same time. Everybody agrees on that one, right? Okay. So why do you overthink? Fragments going back and forth, right? And you're worrying about the past. You're identified too. Is this going to be just like before? Is this guy, he seems wonderful, but is he going to be like all the others? You're always living identified to the past instead of the present.
Or maybe future. Oh, it's future, yeah. It's more future. More future.
You mean what will happen in the future? Yeah, but you're projecting from the past into the future. So, yeah, you still, yeah, same thing. You're not here now. There's a Zen guy, asked the Zen master, he says, tell me the 3 secrets to Zen, to enlightenment. He says, the first secret is pay attention, be present. And the second secret is pay attention, be present. And the third secret is pay attention, be present. Sorry?
How do you practice that?
Well, everything I'm showing you. You don't practice paying attention. You stop doing the things that prevent you from paying attention. So to pay attention means that fragment stays in the pilot seat. But if every event triggers identification, which changes the fragment in control of my mind, cannot pay attention. So the more I eliminate my automatic identification without awareness, and the more I eliminate fragments and I force by conscious thought that fragment in control, or I keep my word so that I eliminate a lot of fragments, the longer I keep the same fragment in control, the longer I pay attention. Yeah. So remember, there's no tools to pay attention that work, because as long as there's a lot of holes in the vessel, it doesn't matter how many more new things I try, the holes are still leaking the energy. I've got to plug the holes. Okay? And remember, I've been teaching about 40 years since I started, people asking me for things. And I started studying longer ago than that, obviously. So what I'm teaching you is my experience and hundreds, if not 1,000 students around the world. You know, this isn't just random thought. It's all tested and proven. So it's up to you to test it. Trust me enough to do what I say, then you'll decide for yourself. Yeah. Okay? So that's one example, but if you want to think of any other examples, it'll usually come down to that, fragments or identification and so on, okay? Or any other examples of wasting energy? Huh? Anxiety. What would you be anxious about? Identification. You hear stories. You know one of the worst things you do to yourself when it comes to dating and finding a guy? Huh? Oh, I'm sure you know, but you don't know the one I'm going to tell you. Yeah. One of the worst things you can do. Do you like watching thriller movies or TV series? Yes. And what are they about? Men who cheat and lie and kill and murder. So you're programming your mind by watching these shows that now you meet this wonderful guy and you identify with the TV series where the guy was so wonderful and he turned out to be a stalker and a murderer. Huh? You're shaking your head as if you disagree, or do you agree?
Okay, for me, I don't. I separate that from. Yeah.
You think you separate, but you don't.
I do.
You think, but your mind, your subconscious is creating images and identification without you knowing it. It is happening. Everything that you watch is programming your identification to any similar thing, because that's how the mind works.
I think mine is more of past events than what I watch.
Yes, but if you continue to watch shows that show you how bad men are, you don't watch those shows, or you don't?
They're different.
I know, but when you watch, like if you, let's face it, what do you hear about men? Not good stories, right? The majority stories are bad. The shows are all about murder and thrilling and this and that. There's too much information which is coming into your subconscious, and your subconscious has to identify every event. Now, if there are 10 of this kind of thing and 2 of that kind of thing, well, the mind's going to go to the one that has 10. Whether you like it or not, whether you're aware of it or not. So we have to be very careful about what we feed our mind, because that's where it will automatically go so quickly without you realizing it. That's why you have to start to see every time the mood changes to a negative thought. So tell me, when your moods change, comparatively, how often does it change to a negative thought versus to a positive thought?
I try as much as possible to focus on the positive.
Yes, but how often do you get a negative thought compared to a positive thought? Automatic, I mean the first thoughts.
Yeah. Like this fast.
Like that fast? More to negative than positive?
Yes.
You know what? If I put a Band-Aid, I can cover the wound and in a week it'll heal. Right?
Yes.
But is that a reason why I should not stop cutting myself? Oh, I can cut myself up in pieces because I'll put a Band-Aid and it'll heal in a week. So it's okay to keep cutting myself. That doesn't make sense. So if I know that I quickly jump to negative thoughts and then I replace it with a positive thought, that's not a solution. I don't want to keep jumping to negative thoughts to begin with, because every time I do, energy leaks out. Make sense?
Sometimes you don't control negative.
Never, you never, because you're broken. As you are broken, you will never be able to control the negative thoughts. That's the point of fixing the machine. So we don't get the negative thoughts to begin with. Okay? So that's why you never, from now on, if you don't mind doing that, never watch any horror, thriller, anything that shows bad men, bad things happening to people.
Could be a bad woman.
Whatever. If you prefer dating women, go ahead. I prefer dating women. You can prefer dating women, whatever you want. I know, yeah. I know. I'm teasing you. Yes. Could be anything bad. Absolutely. People always say rich people are bastards. Why? Because you see the shows where the rich guy is just cheating people. All right? And that's why you don't get rich. Because there's the identification that rich is a bastard or a thief or a cheat. I do not want to be a bad person, therefore I identify money with that, so I will never make money. I had that with one of my students. He never was getting anywhere with money. And one day he came to the talk and he said, you know, I was coming here, and he's driving this old junky car. He can't even afford a car. And he gets it from his uncle or something, this old junky car. He said, I was driving and I stopped at a red light and this rich bastard in a Mercedes looked at me like, you know. And I said to him, well, how do you know he's rich? And he said, well, he's driving this new Mercedes. Fair. How do you know he's a bastard? Do you know him? No, I don't know him. So how do you know he's a bastard? Well, he's rich. I said, I see. So do you want to be a bastard? No. Do you want to be rich? Yes. So you want to be a bastard. You see the connection? Because he's rich, he's a bastard. Therefore, in my subconscious, without him even knowing it, he would not allow himself to have money. And so many people are like that. And they could make money and then lose it, or give it away, or there's a problem, or they have a car accident. And whatever they make, they keep losing. They keep losing. And it's this endless cycle. And you say, I love money, I want money. But the identification is that people with money are bad. And it all happens without you knowing it. So you don't need to know all your identifications. You just need to fix this broken machine that every event triggers an identification which changes the fragment. And once the machine is not broken, you won't have that problem. Does that make more sense? So we have to stop letting ourselves be exposed to any negative thoughts as much as is within your control. Okay?
Question about watching the thriller movies. Like, how do I deal with my curiosity? Like, I enjoy watching the thriller things for my own curiosity, like Jeffrey Dahmer. Like, what led him to do the monstrosities that he did? How do I deal with that?
Don't watch it.
But I'm curious.
Why?
Because I want to know, like, what was so wrong with
Why?
him.
Don't you know how broken you
Those
are?
things.
Okay? And where is the pleasure in seeing how another person got so, what was it, what?
It's a legit question, yeah. I mean, he was a serial killer, so...
That's right. But where is the pleasure? Why do you want to understand why this guy was?
I'm
Huh?
asking because I also watch every once
Yeah.
in a while, you know.
Okay, so where is the pleasure in watching this serial killer and why he is that way? Where's the pleasure in it? I mean, I know it's fun, it's exciting, whatever, but can you identify why that is pleasurable?
Because I'm curious, like, what went so wrong with him to go to those lengths?
Why are you curious? Are you a criminal investigator or?
Like, it's just like deep down curiosity for me.
For me, I know, okay, yeah, we're broken. We still have, you know, the worst side of the human spectrum, and then we have
Yeah.
the good side. So it's always good to know. For me, I usually watch them just to understand, okay, these were his triggers.
which can be my triggers as well. I mean, so that's the reason.
Okay, so you think maybe there's something in me that I could be a serial killer. And I want to see what triggered him so I know what will trigger me.
I think it's, yeah, I mean, just understanding that I have the capacity for evil if I choose to.
Sometimes it might. Would you be a prostitute?
Would I be?
A prostitute?
Now, no.
No. Now, no. But if you have 3 children, no money, no way to make money, they need medicine, they need food, and you have no choice, would you be a prostitute?
But is it really not having a choice?
Yeah, well, that's your only option. Let's say you're faced with that. Would you do it? Huh?
Because for me, I look at it as, at the end of the day, we still have choices.
Yeah, but
Although,
yes.
our upbringing, I mean, can lead us down that path.
Or your life circumstances.
Yes.
You're born in a village, no education, you just got pregnant since you're 12 years old, and every year you put out another kid, and you can't even speak English,
Yeah, but still you can do other chores like
and cleaning, and it's not enough money to take care of them.
It's very possible for me to become...
Yeah, because that's the only way you can get the money. So when you say, now I wouldn't be a serial killer, but if circumstances triggered something...
Yeah, I know, like I said, I know I have the capacity for evil, so I don't
That's right.
discount the fact that, yeah, it's very possible.
Exactly.
Yeah, you've seen, we've heard of experiments where good people, supposedly good people, are put in situations where they become so evil, you wouldn't have thought that's possible. So,
Absolutely. So there's nothing about us that we really know. So you enjoy watching that so that you can see someone else do it and then feel better about yourself. This is why... No, but it's the thing of like slapstick. Like when you watch comedies or shows and an old lady falls down and slips on the banana peel, everyone found that funny. What's funny about an old lady slipping and hurting herself? Nothing. But why is it funny? Because someone else is suffering more than me. Is that right? So you like watching the thrillers so that you don't have to look at yourself and you can see someone else going crazy, doing things. It's called the vicarious thrill. All right?
Yeah, that's possible.
To know how maybe to interact with people and spot some characters.
Yep. Or
That
people.
could be a reason for watching. You see, like say, for example, you're in the dating pool. No, people are so in. Okay, I don't want to classify everyone as such, but watching such stuff, you get to read.
the red flags.
Yeah.
It's like
To spot the red flag.
Yeah.
Yes, when they're off, you get to know like they're behaving like something you watched.
Exactly. So you identify, you built images, and then whenever you see, he does something like the guy, the serial killer did. Okay. All right. So it took a little while, but you get my point. Right? You watch these things and it ruins your mind because you'll start identifying, like I told you the story of the girl with the guy with the shoes. She sees these shoes, therefore he is going to cheat on me. You see? You have to know how the machine works, how you are programmed, how you now respond to events, and how that is making your decisions, which are generally wrong. And if you don't know and accept the reality of how the machine works, you can never fix it. So you start with things, the exercises, and no longer watching those kind of shows. Get another hobby, do more yoga, take up crocheting, whatever it is. Find something else to watch or to do that is not depicting exactly what you do not want to have in your life. Okay? So these are all the ways we change to fix a broken machine. Stop feeding it. You know? I mean, if you have cockroaches in the apartment, there's a reason. There's food to eat. If there's no food to eat, then you're not going to have bugs. It's very simple. Your head is a place for bugs. All right? So you get the idea of this now? All right, cool. So basically now, just to get the results of it, if I stop the leaks, I'll have more energy. The first change you will notice is more physical energy. You won't need to sleep as much. You'll be more energetic physically. After that, then the bowl is full, it fills the physical energy, it changes your creativity. You'll start to get more ideas. Instead of wasting it on, ooh, how can I be a serial killer? How did this guy commit this crime? You'll be doing things like, ooh, how can I make this business? How can I improve my career? How can I learn some new skill? Okay? You get more creative in a positive way because you're changing the direction and you got more energy. And after that, you take it whatever you want for personal growth. Spiritually awakened, more peaceful, more wisdom. You as the alien can finally start to develop because there's enough energy after your human side is sufficed to start filling that part of us, which is our consciousness. So that's where we start to become calmer, more peaceful, more wise, more intuitive, better insight. Okay? So that develops after these three. Okay, so you want a little break?